Today you're going to learn how to use Glider.js to create this really awesome lightweight slider. Oh, and hey, I'd like to point out this video's awesome sponsor, Skillshare.com, which offers thousands of classes in design, coding, business, and more. You're about to watch my JavaScript tutorial, but you could watch this full JavaScript course at Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is just $10 a month, but if you're the first 200 students to use my very exclusive link below in the description here on YouTube, then you get the first 2 months free. All right, so let's get started. Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Coursetro. So today we're gonna be taking a look at a brand new, very lightweight Glider script called Glider.js. Now, if we look over here, you can access the GitHub IO page at this URL up top. And coming up here, it'll list the features that we have, which is it's really small, it's fast, vanilla JavaScript, which there's no dependencies, native browser scroll, fully responsive, and the list goes on. You can check those out yourself. There's also some demos here with coding examples. And for our example, like I mentioned before, we're going to be creating this little user testimonial slider. And really, this could be you could create anything. This could be images, like a small image gallery. You can put whatever HTML you want inside, and it's very easy setup, and I'm going to show you exactly how to get that started. All right, so for today's question, do you collect client testimonials yourself? And if so, how? Do you email them? Do you have a script or use some sort of service? I'm not sure if there's a service for collecting user testimonials. Maybe there should be. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, so I have a brand new folder created here called Glide in my code projects folder, and I have Visual Studio Code opened up into it, and you can see there's no file. So the first thing we'll create, as always, if you follow along from before, is the index.html. I'm gonna hit exclamation point and enter to get some quick boilerplate for HTML. I'm gonna hit Control+ to make it a little bit larger. And also, we will link up, let's just call this Glide. We're gonna go ahead and link up a CSS file. And that will be in a folder called main or CSS, and then a file called main.css. We'll create that real quickly. So CSS folder, a main.sass file, and then we will click watch Sass. You'll have to have the Sass extension here for Visual Studio Code. We'll go ahead and close that out. And then also we'll go ahead and get the two file dependencies that we need, which is the CSS file for Glide.js and also the JS file itself. Now, it's so brand new, there's not a CDN that I found for it, which is a content delivery network that we could just quickly use. So we're going to go ahead and click on glider.min.js. There's also the full version as well of these two files, but there's two min files here for JS and CSS. I'll take the JS file right here, click on raw, and just copy everything. And then we'll create the glider.min.js file just in the root here. So glider.min.js, paste it and save. All right, and then we'll go ahead and also create the CSS file. So we're going to go back here and into the CSS file right here, the min version. And I'll copy this. And then also inside of the CSS folder, we'll go ahead and create glider.min.css and save it. All right, so we're not gonna have to touch either of those files. Don't have to worry about them, but we're gonna have to link them up here. So for the CSS, we're gonna put that right before our main CSS so that we can override any values as necessary, or role sets rather. So that's of course in CSS glider.min.css. All right, we're also going to put in another one, which is Font Awesome. From the documentation, you don't have to use this, but from the docs that I found, they have a nice a left and right arrow icon, which is provided by Font Awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in. It's kind of a more of a lengthy paste here, but the href is right here if you just want to look off of this right there. So that's the CDN for Font Awesome. All right. So then we have to come down here, and then we're just going to reference or include our glider.min.css. So script and source equals glider.min.js rather. I think I said CSS, didn't I? All right, and then we'll have two empty or an empty script tag right here for just getting things up and configured with it. All right, so now let's create the HTML necessary for this. All right, so the very first thing that you'll want to do is include everything inside of a container. So I'm going to put div class, and this is going to be glider-contain, and also multiple. And this is coming from their documentation, which, by the way, if we go back here a few times, is right here at this URL. And they're going to give you demos, features, all these demos about how, you know, the different properties that you can use and all of that good stuff. All right, so make sure to refer to that. So this glider contain multiple, you'll wrap everything in this, and then you'll have another wrapper for the actual slider or the carousel type thing. All right, so I'm just going to put an H1 here, and I'm just going to say this is user testimonials. And again, this could be used for anything like an image gallery or whatever you want. And then we'll put a button here, and with a class of glider-prev. So when it comes to these slider sort of features, you want to make sure that you have a left and right arrow, a way to navigate between them, which is a standard convention. So that's what this is for. And of course, glider-prev rather is specific, and that's coming from this glider.min.css right here. And then also we'll just use for font awesome, I class equals FA for font awesome. And then the icon we want is FA-chevron-left. All right. All right, cool. And this as well, glider contain and multiple is also coming from glider.min.css. And again, if you want to explore those properties, you can either use the inspector in your browser when you load this page up, or just include the full version, the unminified versions of these files. All right, and then next we're going to have div class equals glider. Now this is one of the most important things. This is the class that we're going to use. It's going to look for when we start to write the JavaScript. So anything inside of here basically gets defined as an element that will slide in and out based on your configuration options. All right. Hit Control B, by the way. I forget to do that sometimes to get rid of the files that we don't need to see here. All right. So then we're going to have a figure. And inside of a figure, we're going to have a block quote. All right, and then we'll just put in a quote of some sort, a user testimonial. I'm not going to bother making these all unique. I'm too lazy for that. And then fig caption. And that's strange. It doesn't even it doesn't give me the quick complete version, autocomplete. Fig caption. There we go. We'll just say John Doe. And all you feminists out there might get mad because I'm not using Jane. I'm sorry. All right, so this is just going to be one item, and so we'll just go ahead and copy and paste that about 5 times. I hate how it does that automatically. It will indent these next 2 lines based on a paste, so then just hit undo just to fix that, or Control Z. All right, so now we have our 5, if I can count correctly. Yes, I can. And then my dog's barking outside. And then we will, kids are bothering me, outside of the div right here, we will put the other button. So let me just go ahead and copy this. And then this is going to be glider-next. And again, these are going to be classes, the glider-prev right here, and next are going to be something that the JavaScript looks for specifically. So don't rename this something different, otherwise, unless you're willing to change them down here. Although I do believe they're also in the CSS as well. All right, and then this is going to be right. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead after this. And if you want to have the little pagination dots beneath the carousel, you can optionally include that as well. And it's just a way to give another visual reference of where you're at. So div will have ID equals dots and a class of glider-dots, and that's also in the CSS for Glider.js. And that's all for the HTML itself. Okay, so now instead of focusing on any CSS to style this stuff up, we're just going to go directly into the JavaScript, at least at a very minimal version, just to see what it looks like. And then you'll be able to, see my process of trying to make it look better, because by default, it's not going to look great. So I want to explain and to go through that process with you guys. So basically, did I say basically, we are going to start here in the script section, and we're going to put in new glider, and we're going to put document.query selector. And this is all just vanilla JavaScript right here. And this allows us to select and define a glider on this class up here. And then each of these figure elements will be items that can slide back and forth and all that such. All right, so then after that, we put a comma, and we open this up in an object where we have properties. All right, so the first property, one of the most important ones that you have to consider, is how many of these items do you want to show? Now, this does allow you, this particular glider script allows you to define a different amount of slides to show based on breakpoints, so it's responsive. I'm not going to cover that, but if you want to look at that, it's right here in the documentation, right here in responsive settings /scroll lock support. All right, so you would simply put in a responsive array and then an object of a breakpoint of, say, 775 pixels. Then you can redefine slides to show and all the other properties, and then just comma separate these, and then you can make it truly responsive. We're not going to do that, though. We're just going to keep it simple for like a desktop version, something that's wide. So we'll put in slides to show, and we'll just say 1, all right? And then we're going to put in draggable. We're going to make this true, and so this is an option if you want it to be, obviously, for touch support, and also be draggable even on desktop, as you'll see momentarily. And then we're going to put in dots, because we defined our element for dots right here. And so we have to define or specify the selector, which is going to be an ID of dots. And then also arrows, which is an object that accepts 2 properties of previous. So which selector is that going to be? It's going to be a class of glider-prev, which is the first one up top, off screen. And then also next is going to be glider.next, which is in reference to this button right here. All right, and that's looking done. All right. So unfortunately, it's not going to look great, like I showed you in the initial preview when this tutorial started. We're going to right-click on index.html and open with Live Server. And there we go. So as you can see, we have issues with the buttons hanging off the side. They're half cut off. But nonetheless, you can see that we specified just 1 to show at a time, and they are draggable, and you can see it automatically creates the dots and the pagination for you based on how many are actually there. So it's a little bit strange because right now, if you just drag it, it will stop right there. There's no snap, but if you do click on this, it will go all the way on the bottom buttons. Same thing with the top ones as well, the left and right arrows. All right, so let's just try real quick before we make this look better. Let's try true. I can't talk today. So when I save it, you'll see, obviously, it's showing us 2. And this is obviously, as well, updates the dots based on how many are here. So in this case, we have 5, and we're showing 2. So there should just be 1 that shows up at the end, and it just doesn't scroll quite as far, obviously, to get that point, so it works. I just realized I say obviously way too freaking much. I'm going to see if I can not say that at all for the rest of this tutorial. All right, so slides to show. There's another property that we can use here, and that property is, coming back here, slides to scroll. All right, so you can experiment with this property as well. And if you have a bunch of different slides to show based on how many have yet to be shown, the slides to scroll is a way to affect that behavior in terms of how many come in. So right now, what we will do is, another final thing that I wanted to show just based on this part is the fractional slide. So this is really cool. Right here, we just put in, for the slides to show, a half value. So 2.5. We'll go back and look at that. So that provides a nice aesthetic, especially if you have it set up correctly in your CSS. So that's the part I want to focus on now. Really, there are some other aspects that you can really look around, such as the responsive settings. And this also has a perspective view, which requires custom CSS. It's not shown here though, but you can obviously do a lot. Shit, I said obviously, I'm sorry. You can do a lot with this just by modifying the CSS in and of itself. So let's go ahead and work on that CSS because that was really ugly. All right, so now this is going to transform more of like into a UI design tutorial right here. I can't help myself. So we're not actually going to use Montserrat font like I normally do about 99% of the time. We're going to use one that is a serif font from Google API right here called Playfair Display. All right, so we're importing that first. Our body, we're going to make a background, which is the current default color of the cards that we are using. All right, and then we're going to make those cards in a second white. Box sizing, oh no, I don't need to do that, sorry. Margin 0 to get rid of default padding. And then font family is going to be Playfair Display and then serif. All right. So at this point, we save it. This is what things look like. Not that great. All right, so we'll do figure. So when trying to really reconstruct your CSS and elements that you want to make look different, obviously, damn it, I said obviously again. You want to Control-Shift-I because it's really not obvious sometimes. I use obviously very ineffectively. If you hit Control-Shift-I or F12, you get up the developer tools. You use this little selector icon right here, and you figure out, okay, what is it that I want to change? And so I want to make these white. All right. So if you go further enough down the areas, you'll see we have each of these are inside of a figure element. All right. So let's start with that. And what we'll do is background, and we'll just say white. Or you could do FFF, and if that doesn't work, we're going to put important. There we go. That still looks like garbage though because there's no padding where it says John Doe. So let's work on that a little bit more. All right, we're going to put display block here, margin 1.5 EM, and padding about 0.7 EM. So where did I pull those values at? When I was preparing this, I was just experimenting, and that's kind of what I had liked from the start. All right, so it pushed it away a little bit, and we'll push it away even more by centering that element in a bit. So we're going to take the block quote, though, which is the actual quote from the testimonial. We're going to give that more padding of 0.5 EM all around. All right, so we pushed it away even further. And then also, we'll put in font size to make it a little bit larger, 1.3 EM. A font style of italic because it's a quote, and then text align center. And this is especially important if you were only just to show one at a time, and it will center. So it's already looking a lot better. Let's continue on though. We have our fig caption, which is the author. All right, and the fig caption is a text align center. We're going to say margin bottom. We're going to push it away from the container a little bit more by 1 EM. So we'll save that, and there we go, starting to look better. So you give things room to breathe, or white space as it's called, or padding if we're talking about inside of the container, and it just looks so much better. It's one of the things that I see new designers getting wrong a lot. What else? We'll have font size. We're going to make it a little bit smaller, so we'll say 0.9 EM. We'll also put in text transform uppercase. We'll also put in a font weight of bold, and we'll say color gray. There we go. All right, awesome. All right, so now after that, we're going to go ahead and, what is the size of these? Okay, they're obviously, damn it, I said obviously. We cannot see them, but the size still looks good. I can tell just the very edge. And we're going to make a fix to that as well. So what we're going to put in to fix those is glider next, because that's the button element that they're contained inside. And we're going to say right is -50 pixels. Now, why am I doing that?